Hello and welcome to TES Live. My name's Sarah Canane and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio today by Jodie Marsh and Alex Holmes. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
Jodie is a model, bodybuilder and anti-bullying campaigner who you can see on Channel 5 tomorrow at 10 p.m. presenting the documentary Jodie Marsh Bullied. Alex, who can also be seen on the programme, although I don't think it's until next week.
That's right, next week,
is an anti-bullying campaigner who runs the Anti-Bullying Ambassadors programme for the Diana Award. So, Jodie, if I could just turn to you first,
Yeah.
could you just briefly explain to those who may not be familiar with your story why it is you're so passionate about tackling bullying?
Well, basically, I was bullied at school really badly, and mine got so bad that I contemplated suicide. So, having got through that and now class myself a survivor of that, I realised that that other people aren't so lucky, and that there are lots of victims to suicide, and and just people suffering in general with bullying. So I've always wanted to help, literally all my adult life. I've wanted to help other people that are being bullied, and help raise awareness for it and help find a solution to it. So that's why I do it.
And Alex, could I just ask you the same question, because it's clearly something that's very close to your heart as
Yeah,
well?
absolutely. I was bullied at school. It wasn't quite as extreme as the bullying that Jodie was on the end of, but I think it did affect my confidence. It did make me feel isolated and really alone. And I think that's a big reason why I feel so passionate now about making sure that no one suffers in silence and no one goes through that, because it's not a normal part of life, and there's something that we can all do to make sure it doesn't happen.
And Jodie, you spoke there, and you spoke in your TES article as well about you sort of thoughts of taking your own life.
Yeah.
What was it that pulled you through that, and what would your advice be for pupils who might be dealing with those same thoughts now?
Well, I had a really loving and supportive mum and dad, so they obviously helped a lot. But I think the main thing I always had, and I think I mentioned this in the TES article, that I always had like a fire inside of me, and it was that fire that kept me going, and it was, I can't even put it into words, but it was just something that made me think all along, I don't want the bullies to win. I want to beat these bullies and show them that I'm worth something, and show them that I'm not ugly, and show them that I can be successful. And that was what kept me going, I think. I know that other people don't necessarily have that feeling, and I suppose that, again, that's what Alex and I want to help people with, is how to overcome it and how to build a better life for yourself. Something that I say to victims all the time is that, especially students at school, is that your life won't always be this way. When you're a teenager at school, you think, or even younger, you think that is your whole life. Like that's how it's going to be forever. You think, I'm going to have no friends, I'm worthless, I'm ugly, I'm whatever they're calling you. You think it's all true, and you think that life's going to be like that forever, and it's just not true. We all know, as adults, there is a big wide world out here with lovely people, with amazing things to do, amazing experiences, jobs, money, holidays, all, whatever, you name it. There's so much to do in life. But at school, I know I didn't feel like that, and I'm sure Alex didn't. I just felt like I might as well kill myself, because my life is rubbish and it's never going to get any better. And that's what I'm constantly trying to tell young people. Like, you need to do well at school. You need to get the best education you can in order to get the best job you can, to earn the most money so that you can have nice things. This is my motto. But what you've also got to realise is school is such a small part of your life. Once you're out of there, life is amazing. Please don't think that this is it forever, because it's not.
And in your work as an anti-bullying ambassador, what sort of emotional consequences have you seen of bullying and being a bully as well?
I think we've both seen some consequences, but we know that bullying has a direct impact on attendance, on attainment, and your life opportunities and your life chances when it comes to leaving school. Because if you've been bullied at school, then you've been broken down, and you're not going to have that confidence and perhaps that flair. Not everybody is as strong as Jodie, that they're able to overcome this. And we've seen some horrible cases where young people have felt so alone that they have no option but to do something they drastic, suicide. and you don't want anyone to go through that. And I think a lot of the time the bullies don't really think about their behaviour, and it can be one very big mistake that will ruin that bully's life, but also the person that's being bullied. So I think the consequences are huge, and I think it affects everything from our economy to our happiness and well-being. So
our education as well.
Yeah.
Kids underachieve if they're being bullied. And we know that for facts. You know, the happier a child or student is at school, the more they will achieve. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Alex. Like, we've seen horrendous consequences. All year round, we meet parents of children who have committed suicide due to bullying. I've obviously not long been back from America, where I've been out there investigating bullying, and 70% of the school shootings that happen in America are due to bullying. People think that school shooters are evil or they're lunatics or, you know, there's something wrong with them, they're deranged. They're not at all. These are bullied children at the end of their tether, where they've been bullied incessantly for years, and they literally see red one day and flip out and want to get revenge on their bullies and can think of no other way. Now, I said this on this morning today, and I'll say it again now because I've been told it was a very powerful statement, but I truly believe this, in that I think the only reason we don't have school shootings here in the UK is because guns aren't readily available. If we had guns available like they do in America, where you walk into a house and it's laying on the table, I think we would have school shootings here. And that's the only reason we don't. And honest to God, the things I have seen with regard to education, bullying, and then suicides and school shootings are so shocking. And that's why I want everybody to watch these shows, starting from tomorrow night. The next show is on a week later, the 11th of April. People have got to get behind this and watch it because it's so important, isn't it?
It is absolutely so important, yeah. And, you know, I've taken Jodie to some schools that have adopted similar initiatives that you're going to see in the episode next week, because I work for a charity called the Diana Award that does train young people to be anti-bullying ambassadors, and we know that this works, but a lot of schools and teachers will look at it like that and they think they've got an anti-bullying policy, that means it's all sorted. But actually you need to bring that policy alive, and you need to make it fun and exciting and make it mean something to those students and those staff. So
I did want to ask you about that, because I wanted to, because the initiative is clearly a successful one. So what do you think is stopping more schools taking it up? Do you think it's a almost in denial about having a bullying problem in their schools?
Yes.
I think it's that.
And
I think,
more.
And I think it's there's not enough inspiration out there. You know, they don't have the tools or the resources.
Time.
Yeah, time.
Teachers are too busy.
Yeah.
They're marking homework, planning lessons. I think they're too busy. I think it's kind of a case of like, I haven't got time for this, or it's not really my problem, or, you know, that's not my job role, or whatever. But actually, I think every single staff member in a school is responsible for this, and I believe every staff member, I'm talking including dinner ladies, bus drivers, cleaners, janitors, caretakers. I think every single member in a staff in a school has a part to play.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that is so important, because you can't just have one member of staff driving this, and then if a kid goes to another classroom and the same message is not being given, because it's not consistent, and it's got to be a whole school approach. And outside of school, think about, you know, because it's not just celebrities that have a part to play, it's politicians, it's the shop owner down the street, and actually I think maybe this government hasn't really make it enough priority on bullying. But we know that if young people are happy learners that feel safe, then they're going to achieve, and results are going to go high up. But it's not. It's about not seeing the bigger picture. And I think these two documentaries, the first one starting tomorrow, is going to really open some eyes and make people think, because you just need a little bit of inspiration. Sometimes it just takes someone like Jodie to highlight this issue, and for people to think, yeah, actually, my school needs to do a little bit more.
We need to step up.
Yeah, and we've got some ideas from this. And I hope that teachers are going to keep us informed of that, because we're not even saying we have all the ideas and the answers. There's so much out there, but we're saying do something and do more than just having a piece of paper, because that doesn't affect anyone.
I believe that the government's anti-bullying policy isn't enough as it stands right now. There needs to be more. And
what do you mean by more?
Well, I would like to see what we do in the second part of this series, what we do in that school and how we turn it around. I would like to see that rolled out to every school in the country, and I would like to see the government backing that and behind it, because that could truly stamp out bullying for good in every school. I absolutely believe that with all my heart. If enough people got behind it, we actually could turn this country around, starting from the youth upwards. Like, I think some of our major problems today come from people being nasty to each other from a young age, and breeding bitterness and hatred for each other.
And when you talk about that, that was something else I wanted to touch upon, because do you think it's actually worse for children who are being bullied now? Not obviously not to belittle either of your experiences.
I think it's much worse for kids now.
Yeah, because I've heard you say that you got to go home.
Yeah.
And obviously kids
Yeah, exactly. And I know Alex is a bit younger than me. I mean,
Just
not much. Not that much. But no, definitely it's worse for children today. Like you said, I used to be able to go home from school and be safe at home with my parents. It was my safe place. Because we didn't have social networking sites. Today we have a million social networking sites, obviously the biggest ones being Twitter, Facebook and all of these, and kids can be cyberbullied at home, on their mobile phone, on their laptop, on their iPad, on their computer, and it never goes away. It's incessant, it's in their face, there's nowhere safe to go anymore.
And does that mean, on the other side of things, that it's more difficult for teachers to spot if a pupil of theirs is being bullied?
No. Personally, you can add to this. I think a good teacher should always be able to spot when a child is not happy.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's just some of those things. Maybe when you're up there and you're a teacher and you have 30 kids, you sometimes miss things. And to be fair on teachers, that does happen. When you are worrying about getting the objective in and being having your lesson observed, that's very difficult. And I think if you're getting bullied outside of school, it's more difficult to spot the signs if it's on social networks. Yeah. And how, as a member of staff, how do you deal with that? But actually, I think every single service provider is doing a lot more to tackle bullying, and I think it's just not, the information is not out there. If I'm working in a school, I don't know what to do if a child is being bullied on another platform. I may not have ever been on Facebook. I may have not owned a games console, but actually my students are on those games consoles and they're experiencing bullying. But how do I deal with that? I don't want to look like I don't know how to deal with it. So maybe I brush it off, or I just say ignore it. And it's about awareness. And I think there's a big culture change, but it's not kind of being, when the information is not being pushed and out and presented at the moment to staff, because those staff are responsible for the safety of those young people. And that's it.
And in my experience, the child who commits suicide is always the one who has fallen through the cracks. It's the one that nobody noticed. It's the one that nobody cared about. It's the one that was isolated the most. And that's why I say that teachers should be aware of whether the children in their classrooms are happy or not. Because that, like I say, every single child that I have met the parents of who's committed suicide, it's always been one who's fallen through the cracks and nobody noticed. So a good exercise that teachers can do, actually, I discovered this in America but came home and talked to Alex about it. A good exercise that teachers or a headmaster or headmistress can do in school is write out a list of every single pupil's name in the whole school, sit down, have a staff meeting, hand the list out to every single staff member of every pupil's name, and get them to mark off on the names of who they feel they have a connection with. Yeah. So every teacher marks which child they have a bond with and they feel would talk to them in a crisis. Any kids that are left unmarked, i.e. no teacher has a bond with them, they're the kids you need to watch. They're the kids that need extra help, they're the kids that need extra support, and they're the kids that are probably isolated and being bullied.
I've got a question for you from Jodie Brown and Amelia Arthur. Hello, if you're watching. They're from PAD. People Are Different, Get Over It. That's an anti-bullying group at Unity College, Blackpool. They ask, in your experience, would you say verbal, physical or mental bullying is the most dangerous?
Oh, the most dangerous. Well, I mean, in the documentary tomorrow, you've come across a case of physical bullying, which has kind of changed someone's life. But I think they're all as bad as each other. Verbal can eat away at you and make you just feel like you are a nobody and that you shouldn't be alive. I think they all affect you, and it's hard to say that one is more.
Well, I would always, until I met Sawyer, who's in my programme tomorrow, I would have always said verbal bullying was worse and mental bullying. But there's a little boy in my programme tomorrow night who was beaten up by a school bully and left paralysed and in a wheelchair. And so that obviously is going to affect him for the rest of his life. He'll never walk again. It's absolutely devastating.
But do you feel should schools like be saying we should deal with verbal bullying more than
No, I think equal. I think schools should be dealing with them equally. But I mean, although Sawyer is an extreme case, obviously being left paralysed and in a wheelchair, but I think generally I probably would still have the stance of verbal bullying is worse because it stays with you for longer. You know, it affects you mentally, it ruins your life. It's always verbal bullying that leads to suicide. Nearly always. I don't think I've ever seen a case of physical bullying leading to suicide. It's always the verbal stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen a physical one, but yes, I mean, yeah.
Because there'll be a lot of stuff out there that Ofsted are saying that schools need to tackle things like homophobic, bullying, and particular types. But are you saying that it's not about that? It's actually about doing more?
No, just overall bullying. I don't even think you need to put it in boxes. You don't need to say it's racial or it's homophobic or it's this or it's that. I just think bullying as a whole, like exactly what you just said. The name of PAD, is it? Like people are different, get over it. Like that's exactly the right way to put it. It's like, we're all different. We all look different. We've got different colour skin, different hair, different eyes, different nose. Yes, my nose is funny looking, I know. Get over it. It's. Do you know what I mean? We should just accept people for how they are. It's not about homophobic or racist or this or that. It's just about getting on with each other and being nice to each other.
And do you think that there are still some myths and misconceptions, like, for instance, that there is one type of bullying that is more prevalent than the others that sort of still persist in and around schools at the moment?
Yeah, I think still the sticks and stones may break my bones, but names or words will never hurt me, or even thinking that you can just brush it off, or a typical response from a member of staff can be stop telling tales or rise above it. That's not helpful for anyone, because that person has said to you that they're being affected. And I think bullying is anything that makes you feel upset, unsafe, or uncomfortable. And it's what you were saying this morning about how if you perceive you're being bullied, then you have the right to feel that you're being bullied, and that's got to be dealt with. It's bullying.
Yeah, and absolutely, I agree with Alex. I think schools probably do still have the tendency to go, right, well, if it's physical, we know that's wrong because we can see that him just being punched is wrong. Yeah, but when it's verbal, it's the tendency to go, just ignore them.
Yeah. Or even
it's banter.
I was going to say banter, because there's a lot of classrooms where certain language banter will be accepted with one member of staff, but then you go to the next member of staff and it's not accepted there. So there's sort of these inconsistencies.
So
about...
again, it's just about having a consistent
absolutely, and that goes back to your behaviour policy and your anti-bullying policy. It's got to be you've got to treat everyone the same and expect the same. You can't have people getting away with putting people down in language or choice of words in one classroom and it being okay in another.
Yeah.
Jodie, I've been fortunate enough to see both halves of the documentary, and there are some really heartbreaking stories in there. I mean, I was a mess, and I was sort of had a television screen between me and what was going on. Was it difficult for you to make?
Yeah, really difficult. Like I the first time I made a show about bullying, it aired a year ago, and that I thought was the toughest thing I'd ever done in my life. This one was even tougher. Because for the simple fact that when I made the first bullying show that aired last year, whenever in between filming, I would go home and I'd see my mum and dad and my dogs, and I'd have a nice time, and I'd be able to take my mind off what I'd just seen and have a cuddle with the dogs. And after an hour on the sofa having a cuddle with a warm fat pug, you feel all right again. But what happened was, obviously filming this in America, I couldn't go home in between, so I was just stuck out in America in the middle of nowhere, because we were often in very, very small towns. Like we weren't in these big busy places. We were in very, very small towns where there was nothing to do. And so when we finished filming, by the time we finished filming, all my friends and family were in bed back home, so I couldn't call them for a chat.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't have my dogs, didn't have anything with me. So I just sunk into a massive depression, and it carried on even after I got home. I was probably depressed for another 3 or 4 weeks after I got home, because of what you see. You know, I'm visiting parents of children who've committed suicide all day long. So it's horrendous. It's depressing. It's soul destroying. You know, you almost start to think there's no light at the end of the tunnel because it's so devastating what you're seeing. But then, of course, we took these amazing techniques and turned the school around back home, which you see in the second part of the series, and it makes it all worth it, you know, and doing things like this, raising awareness, talking about it, bringing it out into the open and forcing people to talk about it and listen to what we're saying. It's all for a good cause. So depressing as it is, and me sitting there crying day in, day out, it's, you know, it's horrendous, but it's all worth it in the end.
And you spoke there about the sort of the second half, which was sort of taking Alex into schools and you working your magic. Could you tell us? Oh, it was sort of magic.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Put that on my website.
Could you tell us a wee bit about the anti-bullying ambassadors program?
Yes. So it is all about really making kids mini celebrities in their school and giving them the responsibility and the ideas and knowledge so that they can make a real difference when it comes to bullying behaviour. And I've, for about a year and a half, worked at the Diana Award, and we train young people to be anti-bullying ambassadors and really get them excited about the difference that they can make to their school. And it doesn't take much. I mean, we in a very short space of time, it was quite intensive, but we were able to bring about some real change and get the school to look at things slightly differently. And that's the thing, really. When you give young people the power and the skills and the knowledge, they can change the world around them, and they can have a positive difference, make a positive difference on adults, and young people. And there's been some great results. We try and get schools to look at it differently. Often, if you say we're going to create an anti-bullying team that give you all the kids that have been bullied, we were both bullied. That's not going to be the most effective team. So it's about thinking about, well, how do you get the bullies on board?
Actually, what I found quite interesting was your efforts to get bystanders on board, so people who may see something but usually say nothing. Like, why do you think it's important to get that group of students in particular
also
involved?
As well as that, we got kids who could have been bullies.
Yeah.
Like, we got the
On
kids
the
who were kind of on the edge, like, you know, given a few little pushes, they would have become bullies themselves.
Yeah.
And we got those kids because, as Alex said, it's very important to get the right mix of students. When you're going to put together a team of anti-bullying ambassadors in any school, you need to get a kid, I think, from every single group within the school. So you need one from the football team, you need a musician from the band, you need someone from the choir, you need a computer geek, you need this, you need that. You know, you literally need one from every single group. You need a bullied victim, one who was once a bully.
Yeah.
You know, you need the best-looking girl in the school that all the boys fancy. You know, you literally need that. Of course, that's me. Not at school, it wasn't. Might be now. I'm joking. But this is what you need to do, and the reason for that is once all those kids become friends, then obviously all of a sudden these groups are now mixed because then all their friends become friends. And all of a sudden, you have harmony within the school. You have everybody being friendly to each other and everybody being nice to each other. Because where before, the people who love the computers would never mix with the football stars, all of a sudden they are. And they're friends. And they're being nice to each other. And they're looking out for each other. And they're helping each other. So when the football star, who doesn't know how to work a computer, goes, oh, I really need someone to help me with this website, he's got a mate all of a sudden who can help him.
Yeah.
So whereas before that he might have been bullying that computer guy, now he's going, can you help me?
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? It's amazing. Like we've seen such good results, haven't we? We really have.
And on a slightly similar note, Jocelyn Churnside from Greenslope State School, she wants to know what would be the strategies you would give to high school kids who were onlookers to bullying.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think you should always, never walk by or just avoid something that you're not happy with. Anything in life, if you're not happy about, then speak up. Find somebody you trust, because the chances are there will be somebody in your life that you can go to who will listen. And don't be put off by the fact that if someone doesn't listen the first time, go back to them or find someone else.
Keep trying.
Yeah, never see something that you're not happy with and just walk by and do nothing.
I mean,
Like-
one thing that I saw in America that does work, and I'm trying to get people to adopt over here, is if you see someone being bullied, to walk up to the bully and go, that's not cool. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, that simple, just, that's not cool. Like, trying to make it uncool to be a bully. You know, if kids can get that saying, like, ingrained into their minds, so that every
Yeah.
time they see bullying, they just go, oh, man, that's not cool. You know, that's how it was in America. The kids literally would say it 10 times a day, and the second they saw someone being nasty, they'd go, that's not cool. Don't do that. And that would be it. But if you're not confident enough to confront a bully, then at the very, very least, you need to tell a teacher.
Yeah.
You need to tell a teacher. I don't care. Even if you've been sworn to secrecy, or you've been threatened or anything, you need to tell someone. You need to.
Yeah.
I saw, as an example, in America, I've met a very young girl, probably 12 years old, and she came up to me and she said, Jodie, I've never spoken to anybody about this before ever, but my best friend has been cutting her own arm. She's being bullied and she's getting abuse at home, and she's been cutting her own arm, and it's really bad and nobody knows. I've never told anyone. And I just went nuts. I was like, right, told all her teachers, told everyone, you know, you have to. It's your responsibility to. But I said to this girl, I said, please, if anything like this ever happens again, you have to tell your teacher, because how is anybody going to help her if nobody knows? You have to tell her. Oh, but she made me promise not to. Yeah, I know that, but think about it. She could die if that went too far one day. That cutting, you never know what's going to happen. And I said, please, in future, tell somebody. And she was like, okay. And luckily, obviously, the teachers all got involved, and she's okay now. But that's key, I think, is like Alex said, you've got to tell somebody.
And I think the other thing is that your best resource is the kids. You know, listen to the kids. Find out about what they think are the safest areas of the school and not the safest areas. Maybe do a questionnaire. But your best resource is your kids. So talk to them, sit them down, get a representation of the school,
opinion,
and find out what they think will work, because it's their school, and when they own it, then they will bring about change. So do listen to kids. They're the most valuable asset of the school, really, and they will be able to help you look after each other.
I think we're running quite short on time, so I just wanted to ask finally, if teachers are watching this, if they happen to tune in, which I'm sure they will, to the documentary, and they want to learn more about starting an ambassador programme in their own school, where do they go? So
the best place is the Channel 5 website, because we are getting some information uploaded, some of the techniques from America, which is in the documentary tomorrow, but also there'll be a link to the Diana Awards Anti-Bullying Ambassador Programme. I go across the country training lots of young people, but at the moment, not that everybody knows about that, and it's quite small. So programs like this, the documentary that starts tomorrow and next Thursday, are really going to shine a light on what schools can do on their own back very easily, very quickly. So look online.
Yeah, and just to back up what Alex said, Alex travels across the country teaching young people to be anti-bullying ambassadors. Any schools that want Alex to come in and do that, they can contact him through the Diana Award. So, he is available to do that. And also, I can go with him. I've been into many schools with Alex now. We go in and give talks. We can help the teachers. We can almost train the teachers in how to deal with bullying. We have so much knowledge on it between us.
And passion.
Yeah, and passion and excitement. And, between us, we really do have the knowledge. And we are more than happy to help people, but you'd have to contact Alex either via Twitter or, you can find him very easily on mine, because I retweet everything he tweets, or via the Diana Award. And like I say, I just want every parent and every teacher has to watch these shows starting tomorrow night. The second part is on next Thursday. It's Channel 5, 10 p.m.
Okay. Well, it's clear you're extremely passionate about this. As I said, I've seen the documentaries. I really would recommend them if you can tune in. As Jodie has very ably slipped in there, it is tomorrow night and next Thursday at 10 p.m. on Channel 5. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in today.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye
you.
for now.
Bye-bye.